welcome everybody. This is the March Curriculum Leaders Update meeting. I'm Mary Treece. We have the Treece team here with us, and we have lots of updates for you today. Let people come into the room. Looks like we have a nice audience today. And we are recording, so if you know of anybody who couldn't make it, we'll send the link out as well. Okay. So here's what we have for you today. Mike, I see, is with us to provide legislative updates, which we know is really important, especially this time of year. And right now, we have Cindy with us to do state assessment updates. We have special ed, social studies, safe and healthy schools, state and federal grants, and then a little information about the dyslexia legislation versus the 35M literacy grant. Some people may have already heard this, so we kind of put it at the end for those who have not had the opportunity to learn more about this. We're going to get started right away. And as always, the Wayne Reese update report is available to you. This is the March update report. I'll also email it out, but you can also access it here at any time, and it's always archived. And we'll give it right to Mike with legislative updates.
Good afternoon, everyone. Contact information is on there for if you guys have any questions that come up after this. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions that you didn't ask or didn't come to your mind while we were here. Go to the next slide, please. What's on everyone's mind is the elimination or the dismantling of the U.S. Department of Ed. What does it mean? Is it going to happen? What will it mean for Wayne Risa? What will it mean for Michigan? I'll start off with saying we know some things. We don't know a lot. We don't know a lot of things. What we do know, we're kind of able to assess what we believe is going to happen based on my conversations out in DC and with members of Congress. Obviously, you've continued to hear, I think, for the last month or so, that this executive order is coming to eliminate the U.S. Department of Ed. And it hasn't come, and mostly that's because you can't eliminate the U.S. Department of Education by an executive order. What you could do through executive order is order the secretary to kind of figure out the best way to shift programming to make the department more nimble, if you want to use that word. The elimination is unlikely because it takes a vote from Congress, and they would need 60 votes in the Senate, and they'd never get Democrats to vote for that. So getting rid of US Ed is not happening. They are dismantling it though. Since over the last 2 months, they have lost 1,900 employees, 600 to the early buyout, the early retirement, or just the buyout package that they had offered at the end of January. And then obviously 1,300 were fired last week. They're left with around 2,200 employees at the department. We continue to hear rumors, and this is all by design, right? So, I was hearing rumors last week when this happened that the entire Title III office was let go. So that just gives you a sense of the types of things that they're going to try to do, which obviously means, those type of supports for English language learners and others are probably trying to be dismantled. Obviously, there's an executive order that at first glance isn't connected to education, but I think when you connect the two dots here, you find, you find the executive order that English is the official language of the United States executive order. It just tells you where what the direction that this administration is going in. And I mean, as if anyone probably needed to know where they were going. I was surprised to be told that around actually 80% of the work done by the department is actually focused on higher education. So that obviously the remainder is in K-12. They have consistently said that their goal is to shift regulatory and oversight from the department to the states. They've also indicated that programs like IDEA can be transferred to DHHS. So that's basically what I think we can expect. How is this going to impact us in Michigan? The federal government essentially is going to shift all of these regulatory and oversight responsibilities to the state departments. I think we all know that MDE doesn't have the capacity to probably do all of that. So my guess is that MDE would pass that down to the RISAs and ISDs, to kind of turning Wayne Risa and other ISDs into some sort of regulatory body. Again, this is just a guess. This can all change, but this is based on some educated information, at least, or educated guess. In addition to that kind of oversight, I think you're going to see less enforcement of federal laws, such as Every Student Succeed Act. That enforcement could be transferred to the state departments. We'll have to see how that works. Um, Overall, I think we need to be less concerned. I know it's hard to say. We need to be less concerned about the dismantling of the department. Probably more concerned about funding and vouchers. I continue to hear that we should expect to see 25% cuts in funding for title funding. I know that they've openly said they're aiming at Title One. They've mentioned IDEA, but not specifically said they were going to cut that. So we'll have to see what they actually plan on cutting. The vouchers, I was actually surprised to hear one of our Democratic senators in Wayne County, Dana Blahanky, that on Monday say that essentially vouchers. She thinks vouchers are coming to Michigan, which was shocking for me. That was the first time I've heard that from a Democratic legislator in the state. So how are they going to do that? I don't know yet. My best guess is they create some pot of money during the budget process that gives states additional funding if you have voucher programs in place. We'll have to see. I mean, obviously the state, it would have to be different in Michigan because the state's constitution doesn't allow for it, but we'll have to see how it is all drawn out when they actually do the budget process. Next slide, please. Executive orders, we're monitoring all of them. These are most of the ones, these are a lot of the ones that are centered on education. Obviously, the DEI one. I know we talked about that last time. Nothing really has changed here. I think the only thing that's changed in these executive orders is that there's more lawsuits than there were the last time we talked. Um, and it does seem that most of these are being stopped or curtailed in the courts. I shared with our superintendents last week that as it relates to DEI and some of this other stuff too, right? So like the keeping men out of women's sports, they're purposely, these are not based in law. So the Dear Colleague letter, the DEI EO is not based in law. So it's unenforceable, but it's primarily meant to create chaos, right? So it's meant to send people to angry parents to school board meetings or to call up their superintendent and ask, and basically say, you shouldn't be doing this. The president says it's illegal. So obviously that's just chaos, right? And they've also gone as far as they created the snitch line, where you can go on. I know two of our districts in Wayne County have already received comments through or submissions through the snitch line for DEI. So what I've shared with the superintendents is really at this point, it's just developing a communicate, being ready with the communication to explain, primarily, look, we will always follow the law in Wayne, everywhere. But until the law changes, we're going to continue what we're doing, or if we receive more clarity. So that's kind of um, the advice that we gave to the superintendents. I think if you pay attention to the legislature, probably not as much as I do. The House Republicans introduced and passed a resolution about keeping men out of women's sports, and basically just to show you that they really can't do anything. They were encouraging the athletic association to align with the executive order. So we're continuing to monitor those pretty much daily. We'll share more detailed information and clarity when it comes. Next slide, please. So state policy wise, and before I get to state policy wise, I should link what I just said previously in terms of the funding cuts and the funding cuts at the federal level and what our budget ask is at Wayne Risa. I mean, these people have gone and done every single thing that they said that they were going to do since coming into office, and I do think that we are going to see cuts. Whether it's 25% or less than that, I think we need to prepare for 25% cuts. Currently, the state receives 9% of its school aid budget from the federal government. If you do some quick math and do um, uh, if you do some quick math and do the 25% cut off of that, the it's about 500 million a year if they did a 25% cut. So what I'm asking for is we currently have in the school aid fund a school aid reserve fund that has about $510 million in it. I would like to put an additional $500 million of one-time money in it and change the boilerplate and essentially say, dependent on whenever this happens, because we don't know when the budget process is going to happen at the federal government. Obviously, they passed a continuing resolution that drags it out to September 30th. I'm told that the reconciliation process is going to happen sometime mid to late April. And I think we need to be prepared. We can't go, I don't think the state will have a budget completed by July 1st, but my concern is that we spend all of our money. We have about $1 billion in one-time money and 1 to 2 billion in ongoing money available for next year's budget. And I want to squirrel that away. I want to squirrel that extra 500 away so that any cuts it can be backfilled. And what I'm telling legislators is like, look, if we're wrong and it's 10% cuts, then you have that money in the reserve fund for next year, and you can use that in the budget or in the supplemental. Um, Speaking to budget, and I mentioned that they weren't going to get a budget done by July 1st. As we're now in shared government, you've seen lobs, you've probably seen lobs thrown that Democrats are going to shut down the government, or Republicans are going to shut down the government. So the Republicans introduced their shutdown prevention budget, which was kind of a skinny budget. It included a foundation allowance of $10,025, so it's $25 over what the governor had proposed. $350 million for school safety and mental health. I think it was a 4.3 or 4.6%. I think it was 4.3% increase for special education and included money for mixers. It leaves about, I think it leaves about $5 billion on the table. I urged Senate Democrats and sent them over a number of different uh, categoricals to put in to what the House sent over and send it back and call the House's bluff. I asked for such things like transportation, school meals, at risk. Um, there's a number of others. I essentially said put $3 billion more into it and send it back over and call their bluff. Unfortunately, they're not going to do that. But um, we're still trying to get to kind of work through the lobs back and forth. I do think we're typically, I continue to be told, but by the end of this week, I'm going to see a House school aid budget. I don't think that's possible, but I've been wrong before. Typically, we should see budgets by the end of April for House and Senate, and then obviously on for there, they go to negotiations. Um, Policy wise, um, Republicans have basically, I feel like they've been drafting bills for the last 2 years and holding them and waiting to introduce them pretty much all at once. The House Education Committee has been extremely busy. They do have a education plan out there that is essentially it's basically been written by Launch Michigan, supported by GLEP. There's some things that I think that we wouldn't necessarily mind as far as the bills, but for the most part, we haven't taken position on any of them, and part of that reason is because I don't expect to see any of these bills be taken up in the Senate. So we're kind of holding our powder dry right now. Um, the House did reintroduce a number of school safety bills that were introduced over the last number of years. Many of them are from previous sessions I mentioned. I think we have some concerns about some of them. Obviously, it's great to have a requirement for emergency operations plans, but in the bill it does require that the public have input, which doesn't make much sense to me. And the other one that's kind of weird is the number of fire and school safety drills are changed. The fire drills are increased, school safety drills, or excuse me, fire drills are decreased, school safety drills are increased, and it by one each. And then it says for the school safety drills, you have to do one while in at recess or lunch, and then one during passing time. I can't imagine the kind of chaos that would bring. So we'll have to see where these go. The school safety bills, I think, are the ones that could see the most consideration, but they were just introduced. They haven't even come up in a committee yet. Um, And then obviously, as I said, just to close, we're laser focused on what's going on at the federal level. I shared earlier with our board that, I think my job has typically been about 90-10 state, not, and it's quickly become about 50-50 state and federal. So the more information we get, we'll continue to share, but I am happy to ask any questions.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but if anyone has anything and would like to unmute, please feel free. Mike?
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.
And next we have Cindy. Cindy, I think you might be muted.
Yes, thank you. We're going to move into state assessment updates. Cindy Taraskevich, as most of you, I have met with most of you. My contact information is on the first slide. So if I don't answer any questions today, feel free to follow up with me. There were a couple questions from the last meeting last month. I have not heard back from MDE. They did contact me to let me know that they are working on responses to those questions regarding the AI scoring. And they will get back to me with responses, but they don't have responses yet. So they are working on them. And I will share those responses once I get them. Some updates for Chromebook. There is a necessary update for MSTEP and My Access testing. All Chromebooks used must be updated to the Chrome OS version 133. I have it linked there for you. So if you click on that, you can get more detailed directions. Make sure you get those directions to your technology coordinator. So they have more information how to get that updated to the latest Chrome version. Also remember the required training for your test coordinators. They do have to review the assessment integrity guide, which is linked there. They have to also complete the Michigan virtual security online sessions. Those are also linked there. When you go to the page, search MDE, and it will take you to the courses. You'll receive a certificate that you keep on file, and then also sign the security compliance form, which is linked there. So that's for all test coordinators, district and school level. Next slide. And then for your college board level assessments, PSAT and SAT, there is additional training required. They sent out an email on March 3rd. They notified you that the online required training is available. Primary school test coordinators, they have a training status dashboard that you can use to monitor testing staff and training completion. There is a training dashboard guide linked below on how to access the training dashboard. Your PSAT and SAT test coordinators and proctors, they are also required to complete the annual online training. The link for them to access is linked there for the sign-in page. You can also share the link that you receive in your email to your proctors. Your SSD coordinators, your room monitors, and your hall monitors, it's optional for them to complete that online training. You can share it with them and they can complete it. Or there is a separate hall and room monitor training that is linked there if you want to share that option. So there's different options for them. Next slide. The digital readiness check will be coming up soon. College Board recommends between March 24th and April 4th that you're getting those readiness checks completed. When you're doing the digital readiness check, your school test coordinators will print 2 sets of test tickets in the download area on Test Day Toolkit. One of the tickets will be for the digital readiness check and one will be saved for the test day. The students can keep the ticket from digital readiness check and use on the Blue Book app, so they can keep that ticket. Remember, they will be completing the Big Futures information with student opting in to the Big Futures. You must send out the student opt-out forms for PSAT 10 and SAT. It is linked there. You can use the MDE form or create one of your own, just to give students the opportunity to opt out of the big futures, not opt out of testing. All of the PSAT and SAT manuals and guides are released in that link. And then all of your digital readiness scripts are linked below for your digital readiness checks. Next slide. Your benchmark assessment updates. Districts received an email regarding your funding application, if you were approved or denied. The allocated amount for 24-25 is $14.36 per pupil. Your budgets can be submitted in Nexus. Any budget submitted in March will be paid in the April state aid payment. The final deadline to submit your budget is May 30th. There are final requirements for your spring benchmark testing period. If you do not complete the final spring requirements, your funds can be recaptured. So remember, for that last testing period, for spring testing, you still have to make sure that you're administering 25 benchmark assessment to all students in grades K-8 in math and ELA, the same assessment that was completed in the fall. Spring is defined as the last marking period of the school year. So MDE defined that this year. It was kind of an open window for the last years. It is defined now as the last marking period of the school year. You still have to provide mode of instruction data in Data Hub by June 13th. You have to provide benchmark score and growth data in the Data Hub by June 13th. And you have to provide data to parents and guardians within 30 days of that spring administration. So those are still required for the end of the year assessment, that spring window, or funds can be recaptured. So there are some resources listed on the right. And then when you go into Nexus, this is the time you guys were doing do not apply for the first application. This is the time you can now hit apply now in that budget area, the funding application side. You're gonna add in your information and hit save in the upper right-hand corner. MDE also recommends that you're using Chrome for Nexus and not a Mac. They've been having issues with information populating when districts or school staff are using a Mac versus Chrome. Next slide. We held an Atlas webinar last week. The renewal survey and the review of contracts for Atlas Rubicon, the curriculum management platform, for the 2025 school year, will be coming out soon in April, and then contracts will start in July. So members under the consortium contract will benefit from consortium pricing, and then you get support beyond the public site. I do have the public site listed below if you want to review that. But districts that use the curriculum management platform will be able to host their own curriculum and put their own documents onto the platform with support from Atlas. So the current rate that we have for Atlas users is $2.69 per student. So the more that we get into the consortium, the lower that rate goes. There are recordings from the webinars if you want to review those if you missed it. There is the current districts recording and slide deck, and then an overview for any interested new districts recording and slide deck. Again, we will send out a survey for districts if they want to renew the contract or join into the contract or release from the contract. That will be going out sometime in April. Next slide, thank you. And then just a reminder, the student voice survey. There are 2 more windows left if you would like to still take part in this perception survey. Again, you have your 4 different pockets of data, your demographic, your process, your student learning and perception data. So this student voice survey takes piece of that perceptions data that you need when you're looking at all pieces and multiple measures of data. Again, it's a free student voice perception survey. It's online. It's 10 minutes. It's designed for grades 5 through 12, and it covers the domains of student engagement, belonging, social, emotional learning. There is a parent, educator, and student component, and you receive district and school level reports. So I have the link there to register. There are still 2 more windows to administer the survey, and there are some resources to review. Next slide. I think that's all I have, and that's it. If there are any additional questions, you have my email to reach out. And I will get those answers from the AI from last month. As soon as I get those, I will send them out to the group.
Hi, I'm Kate Pearson. I'm the Essential Elements Consultant here at Wayne Risa. Go to the next slide, thank you. Our team wanted to just talk about a project that we've been working on over the last several months. We've developed a My Access Social Studies assessment pilot, and I wanted to highlight kind of why it's important and the purpose of this project and why we're conducting this pilot, because MDE has not provided a social studies assessment at the supported independence and participation levels. They provide assessments in other content areas like math, ELA, and science, but they did not develop or they do not provide our districts and schools with a social studies assessment. So we also are doing this because we want to better align our districts across Wayne County, because MD has not provided a social studies assessment for these 2 levels. Teachers and districts are left to create their own, find them on the internet, and we just want to make sure that students are having access to better aligned assessments so that every student's accessing the same thing. We wanted to make sure that these assessments were aligned to our state standards and the alternate content expectations, the EGLEX for social studies. We also just want to save educators time so that they don't have to come up with their own assessments during the assessment window. And we also wanted to do this for data collection purposes so that we could acquire data collection for Wayne County in regards to social studies. And what's really cool about this as a team, we've gotten to do cross collaboration with other departments and other districts. So we've worked with Cindy and Joe at Wayne Risa in the assessment and data department. We worked with John Ferris in the social studies department, and we've had a lot of collaboration with outside entities and our participating districts. And we just want to know and highlight that social studies does matter, and it's not the forgotten content area, and that it's really important for our students. You can go to the next slide, please. So really what this includes and what it entails, it's again for our 2 levels. So students who take My Access, there's 3 different levels: functional independence, which is for mild students with mild disabilities. Supported independence is for students with moderate disabilities, and participation is for students who are on the severe spectrum of their disability. And again, moderate and severe students with moderate to severe disabilities really should make up less than 1% of the overall population within our districts. So it's not a very large group, but it's a very important group that is often forgotten about. So over the last few months, we've developed a guidance document that outlines the expectations, overview, scoring, and the contributors and the citations of our work. We also are providing them with the assessment questions and scoring sheets. Each assessment is 20 questions, which correlates to what MD does for the rest of the My Access assessments, and that there's always a primary and shadow administrator giving the assessment at one time. We've also created picture cards and symbol-based cards that support students with answering the questions and provides them with additional visual supports. So we're really excited about this pilot. It's going to be taking place, during the testing window between April and May of this year. And we're distributing out digital and hard copies of the materials to, it's going to impact 19 of our districts that run or provide Act 18 services and programs. But really it's 18 because one of our districts does not have any students at the SI or P levels. So it's really impacting 18 of our districts who are going to pilot this, and which approximately equates to around 400 students that's going to be a part of this first pilot. So we're really excited to see the data that comes out of this, and just trying to support our students with significant special needs and to really highlight social studies across the county.
Thank you so much, Kate. And I agree. Yes, social studies is very important. I'm John Ferris. I'm the social studies consultant at Wayne Risa, and I'd like to share a couple of programs that we've got coming up. Next slide. The one that we're very, very excited about is the Teaching Diverse Histories Summit, and that's going to be on August 13th and 14th this summer. This is a conference on, as the name implies, teaching diverse histories, comprehensive and inclusive history. And the inspiration for this program is that very often when a social studies teacher goes to a seminar billed as teaching inclusive history, teaching comprehensive history, diverse history, what they get is more history, but not necessarily an idea of how do I teach it. So what we want this program to be about is giving teachers the pedagogy and practice to teach these kinds of events. So instead of going and hearing a professor tell you about Detroit and the Underground Railroad, we're going to have professors and educators tell you how to teach Detroit and the Underground Railroad. Because very often you come away from these programs going, well, how am I supposed to teach that in my classroom? We hope that this program will answer that. Day one is going to be your standard kind of conference with a keynote speaker, followed by breakout sessions. We're very excited that our keynote speaker is Dr. Hassan Kwame Jeffries from Ohio State University, who was involved in the Teaching Hard History project from the Southern Poverty Law Center and Learning for Justice. And he's now the host of the Teaching Hard History podcast. And so what he's really exemplifies that concept I was talking about. He's not just going to tell you about slavery, he can tell you about how to teach about slavery and other hard histories. That afternoon will be filled with breakout sessions. This will be held at the Icon, which is on the Detroit River, a stone's throw from Belle Isle. It's a beautiful sight. We'll be able to see the river from the windows there as we have lunch that day. Day two is going to return to the Icon for an opening session and lunch. And then after lunch, participants will board shuttle buses and head off to sites around Wayne County to take part in place-based professional learning programs. So for example, one program is going to be over at the Arab American National Museum, and teachers will explore how to teach Arab American history, but also how to teach with artifacts and how to integrate a museum visit into your classroom. Other sites that are under consideration right now are, the Detroit History Museum, obviously, and a few other places around. I'll leave that. We're still in the planning phases right now. Registration is open. You can click on that QR code when you get the PowerPoint itself, or scan it. And it's free to all educators. It's open to pre-service educators, and you don't need to be a social studies teacher. You can be any kind of teacher, K through 12, coach, admin, you name it. We want everybody to come to this event. And next slide. A very common objection I get when I share strategies or best practices with teachers is, but my students don't speak English, or but my students can't read English. And so we really want to try and help teachers overcome that challenge in social studies. So on April 16th, Wednesday, April 16th in the morning, 8:30 to noon, we're going to be holding a workshop titled Supporting Multilingual Learners in Social Studies. This is going to introduce teachers to the SIOP model and strategies for making their classroom more accessible and more effective for teaching multilingual students. This is a free session for Wayne County teachers. That is, they'll be given a code so that they can get the session for free. And teachers will receive a copy of the book you see on the screen, the SIOP model for teaching history and social studies to English learners. That is Wednesday, April 16th, and that's registration is open. And next slide. And lastly, our social studies leaders meetings. These are a series of meetings that we have 3 times a year. You don't have to be a department chair or any kind of formal leader. If you are someone who's interested in social studies in Wayne County, you are a leader. And so this meeting is open to all educators. We're going to be holding this one, our last one of the year, on April 18th, Friday, April 18th from 1 to 4. And that is going to be at the Detroit Institute of Arts. This year, we're holding all of our social studies leaders meetings at cultural institutions around the county. And at these sessions, we do our usual program where we're doing some shared learning and we're having announcements and discussions. And then we're going to have an activity facilitated by the education department at the DIA. They'll take us into the main exhibit for some activities that are connected to history and art. And then they'll share with us the kinds of professional development opportunities that are available to teachers at the DIA. Let's see here. Great. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Good afternoon. I'm Terry Sherwinski, Director of Safe and Healthy Schools here at Wayne Risa. I have just a couple of quick updates for you. On the next slide, you'll see information about school threat assessment teams. Earlier this year, legislation was passed that require all districts to have in place not later than October 1st of 2026, a school threat assessment team. We have several opportunities for trainings in either the CSTAG, the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines model, or in BTAM, the Michigan BTAM. Both of those models are based on the guide framework from the United States Secret Service Office of National Threat Assessment. So either are appropriate to implement in our K-12 buildings. If you are interested in CSTAG, we do have a level 1, level 2 training, which sets teams up to implement. On June 18th, the registration link is there. We also have June 18th to 20th, a train the trainer. So if you have, if you're from a large district or even a smaller district and you're interested in having a trainer, which CSTAG refers to as a coach, so that you can keep up with your own training needs in your district, you can register staff to attend the Train the Coach program. Both of those trainings are being supplemented by our 31N funding that allows us to provide professional development opportunities to our school districts. If you click on that top link there, you'll see the other trainings that are available for both CSTAG and BTAM, and some additional information about school threat assessment in general. On the next slide, excuse me, there we have information about the 2025-2026, oop, I see a typo there, Building Healthy Communities application. That application is open now through May 30th. And the goal of that program is to help schools build capacity for a healthier school environment. Actions that are focused on are meant to reduce the incidence of obesity and undernourishment, combat issues around absenteeism, address trauma, and nurture a more productive teaching and learning environment. There is an informational webinar that's being held on April 15th, and there are multiple different resources and topic areas that districts can choose to apply for. And on the next slide, we have information about trails. So I've shared information about trails most of the time, most every time I'm in front of you. This year, right now, we are preparing for the last full year of trails programming that comes at no cost, covered by funding that was connected to 31P a couple of years ago. So the trails program will wrap up with this current batch of funding in December of 2026. There continues to be training available at tiers 1, 2, and 3. Linked in this document is the training schedule for all of 2025-2026, which includes the SEL at tier 1, the CBT and mindfulness training for mental health providers to provide supports to students in your district at Tier 2. Also at Tier 2 is some trauma-informed supports for school staff. And then Tier 3 really focuses on suicide prevention and risk management. There are courses at Tier 3 geared toward mental health professionals, administrators, and all school staff, as well as information for parents and the general public around suicide prevention and risk management. Trails made a point of letting us know that they are reviewing their materials and making changes to materials where applicable if there are conflicts with recent executive orders. So if that's a concern for yours, know that that is being addressed. If you are interested in the Trails program, you would click on the general information link here and complete the general information interest form. If the dates for the trainings don't look like something that would work for your staff and you're interested in a custom training date for any one of the trainings that are offered, just reach out to me. If we have a large enough number of folks, we can do custom training per district. And that's right. Thank you.
Carrie, did you say that funding will end December 2026?
Current funding runs through December 2026. You will continue to have access to the programming beyond that date, but new trainings will not come at no cost. So if you've been trained, you'll continue to have access to the programming.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. This is your state and federal grant update today. And today I really wanted to express that we are having several professional developments coming up related to spring, right? So our Michigan Department of Educational has our spring planning workshop that is going to be May 19th, 2025. It's going to be an opportunity, of course, for you to network, to do some Q&A. We're also going to have Team 5 there, and they're going to be giving you updates related to our consolidated application and 31A. We will also have our ombudsman as well for equitable services too. And so all you need to do is click right in the PowerPoint and you will be able to register for this event. We're going to be again from 9 to 12, and then from 12 to 2, we have some network and support that will follow as well. In addition to that, we also have our GrantWise Gazette. And in the GrantWise Gazette, this month, you're going to notice that there has been an increase in the number of state grants that I am publishing and following as well. Just thinking around what's happening with our federal dollars, just wanting to make sure that we have opportunity to see all of the things that are coming forward in order to maybe supplement some of those areas in particular. All right, and related to mentoring and induction, so teachers in their first 3 years of employment, of course, have to have an assigned mentor and receive, of course, 90 hours of professional learning or 15 days of professional learning. And this is actually beyond the 5 days of teacher PL that is required every single year. So classroom management and instructional delivery are the main areas of focus for our teachers that are new in the classroom. And then in addition to that, they have to have experiences with our master teachers and other mentors, and they have to receive first aid and CPR training. And another area of focus, of course, is that districts need to assign a mentor or a coach to each school administrator as well. So this doesn't include your superintendent or chief administrator. And again, this is within the first 3 years of employment in a new administrative position. So if you could go to the next slide. So I'm telling you or reminding you of these two things because there is a grant out there in order to help us build up our programs in accordance with the law that is out there. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, please. So our section 27H, this is a district support grant, and it was established really to strengthen our mentoring and our induction programs and to support the Michigan compiled laws to ensure responsible and effective use of funds. I want you to be aware of some of the acceptable expenses that are listed on the next slide. So we can offer these are being offered as mentor stipends. You can use your expenses for investing in high quality mentor training. We can leverage necessary resources like books and materials to support onboarding and also new educators. In addition, it allows us to allocate some staffing costs that are dedicated to mentoring activities, so more in the stipend lane. And then in addition to that, the Michigan Department of Education, of course, has a website, and they have a video out there around the 27H grant and how it relates to the district support section of this particular grant. Today at 3 o'clock, they do have open time for you to be able to join folks from this department in order to help you with the grant in Nexus if you were thinking about submitting the grant as well. Okay, so lots of different, I think, enhancements that might be able to be made to your mentoring and induction program as well. So I've included the video because it was very well done, and it was from the Michigan Department of Education in relation to the Office of Educator Excellence. So of course we won't be listening to it now, but there is an opportunity for you there. All right, thank you everyone. That was my update.
Thank you, Carol Ann. I have just a few updates around the dyslexia legislation and the difference between that legislation and the 35M literacy grant. I know some of you have already heard this. This is why we put it last for anybody who has not had the opportunity to hear this information. It's kind of important when you think about making sense of the dyslexia legislation and this upcoming grant. So Michelle just put the link to the chart, I believe, in the chat. And I'm just going to kind of run through some of the highlights here. First of all, you all know about the dyslexia legislation. That's what it's called. It's PA Act 146. That's actually legislation. Now, 35M grant is a grant, and let me start. I'll go through all the legislation first. The dyslexia legislation is legislation. There's no funding connected to this legislation. There's no committee required to compile anything. MDE is kind of tasked with providing an assessment that is and a list of approved valid screening, progress monitoring, and reading assessments. It does outline literacy resources. MDE is going to come up with, oh, there we go. Sorry about that. A technical glitch there. So MDE is going to come up with a list of vetted curriculum materials that people can choose from. As far as professional learning, it requires MDE to create a literacy coaching model that includes grades 4 through 12. We don't know what that's going to look like. It's being worked on. The list that MDE is going to come up with will be published in January of 2025. You can learn more. There's a few links there. How is RISA going to support this? Wayne RISA will continue to advocate for and monitor information released from MDE and will provide districts with tools, resources, professional learning around the legislation, as well as supporting dyslexia and reading instruction in the classroom. Thank you, Michelle. 35M, now that's different. People are conflating these. This is why it's important to know the difference. 35M is a grant. It's not necessarily connected to Public Act 146 because there's no funds attached to Public Act 146. So 35M is a grant. LEAs are not required to apply for this funding. It's $87 million and it's allocated to this grant. It's a formula grant. So all you have to do is apply with some conditions and you will get the funds. It does require for a CLA committee to come together and rank literacy series. So they're going to take literacy curriculum that are submitted by vendors, use some rubrics and rank these programs based on the criteria that is outlined in the grant. And then that list will come out in June, this June. So this list will come out first. This vetted list will come out first. And so what's going to happen is this list of curriculum materials will come out along with the grant application. And if you want to apply for these funds, you will choose something from this vetted list to include in your grant application. So that's why we think this is important, because we think it's important that you position yourselves now to make these decisions, because it could mean for you an entire curriculum adoption process. So there is a link there to our Wayne Risa Grant Resource Hub for more information. We will update that regularly. Many of you have seen this before. We've put other grant information there. And what we're going to do around this to support you is we'll provide updates, information, and an application template for 35M. Once we see what the application looks like, we'll try to put together some exemplars and templates for you to work from and support you through that. The Wayne Risa Literacy Department will support district leaders and teams in considering best practice in a curriculum adoption process and choosing high quality curricular resources. We know that best practice is to work through some steps, engage stakeholders, create an implementation plan. All of these things we're working on putting together programming to support you through those things that are aligned to this $87 million. Next. So here's the 35M timeline. You can see the November, December, January, May, things are already happening. The next thing we really need to pay attention to is June 2025. That's when that list will be published and districts will be invited to apply for the funding. And again, it's a formula grant. So if you apply and meet the qualifications outlined in the application, you will receive money. Then MDE will review those applications and then you will find out what your allocation will be in October. Next. And there again is the link to the Grant Resource Hub. This is where we will continue to update and archive information relative to this grant and now the other grants, particularly in the area of the 4 core subject areas. Next. And that's it. This takes us to the end of our March Curriculum Leaders Update meeting. We appreciate your time and attention. And as always, if there's anything we can do for you, reach out and let